Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining OPACA's Safety on the Job panel. This is definitely an important conversation to have. I know it's not easy to have, but I hope that you keep listening and that we all get something that we can walk away with and improve the safety culture on our own farms and save some lives and maybe some businesses as well. So OPACA is the Ontario Professional Agri-Contractors Association. We are a growing voice in agriculture. We started in 2017, but we long knew that Ontario would need an agri-contractors association because more and more farmers are relying on contractors to get field operations done, but contractors face different regulations. So it definitely needs to be addressed. And we represent contractors in Ontario. So my name's Mel Limas. I'm the Executive Director of OPACA, and I'm going to introduce our panel here.
Jonathan Giray is with Elite Agri Solutions. It's his business that he started. He's a broiler farmer in Glencoe. We've also worked in mines out in Western Canada, and then has come back. He helps farmers write grants and also does a lot of training with safety and procedures and policies. Then we've got, were there anything you would add to that, Jonathan?
Nope, that's a pretty good brief overview. We do nutrient management, health and safety, and grant writing for farmers. Yeah. So trying to be a one-stop shop for a lot of the things that farmers would prefer not to do. And we've been in this space for 5 years in this capacity.
Excellent. And next up, we've got Sheila James, who's with the Workplace Safety Prevention Services, formerly known as the Farm Safety Association. She lives in the Ottawa Valley and has had a long career with Farm Safety Association. But you were also a paramedic before that, and she's also a beef farmer too. I did my research, Sheila. We don't let anyone on this panel. Anything else you would add to that?
No, that's a good start.
Excellent. Then we've got Wayne Metzger here from Highland Custom Farming, and the president there. They've worked with Jonathan in implementing a lot of training for farm safety and the procedures as well. So we're really looking forward to having you and your thoughts on Wayne. And then Walter. Does Walter need introduction, really? Walter's with Husky Farm Equipment and has been so big on farm safety, especially I think the first time I ever met Walter, he was dressed up like a clown at the Drayton Farm Show, right? And so farm safety has always been your gig, and we're really grateful. So, I should have mentioned Walter, Husky Farm Equipment is out of Elma, and Wayne is farming at Dundalk, around Dundalk area. So, so this is our panel. We've practiced this before. We know what we want to talk about. I guess the first question to all of you is, why is this important to even have this conversation, and what are the key things that you would want people to take away from it? And Walter, can I start with you?
So my idea is due diligence, to make sure that people write down the safety training that they do, if they have an incident, if they have something go on, to make sure everything is written down. I think that's our new world. Our new word for this year is due diligence.
Due diligence. And why has farm safety always been on your heart?
Farm safety is very important to me. I've had too many of my friends or my relatives that have been injured or died. And I think I knew that I could talk to people when they were younger and teach them about farm safety.
Mm-hmm. My earliest memories were that red heart sticker that said, "Please be careful, we love you, your family." And yeah, always grateful for that. But still, this is a conversation we need to have as adults, and we want to make this, positive. And the idea is that this will be easy to implement farm safety culture in your workplace. Wayne, what about you? Why is this important to you? And what do you hope people take away from it?
Important to me because, I want the guys to go home happy and healthy, and the kids are coming up through the ranks, and it makes you care a lot more. So safety is top of mind all the time.
Yep. Sheila, what about you?
I have seen way too many accidents, injuries, fatalities, and they all could have been 100% prevented. So that's what I'm on about. We know how we can prevent every one of them.
And you want to save lives ultimately and save businesses. We'll talk about that later too. Jonathan.
So I grew up on working on and living on farms that weren't exactly safe, and sort of going from that extreme to the oil field and the nickel mines briefly to see the difference was definitely huge. I think I was probably 22 or 23 before I realized you could sort of work a full day without drawing blood, and that wasn't normal in any other sector. So definitely sort of bringing that background into the safety training has been key. And I sort of get excited on process efficiency. So safety doesn't have to cost you money. And if I can properly relay that and help you implement it in the farm, it should actually save you money. And it helps people sort of incorporate it a little easier.
Yeah. And if anyone has questions for the panel throughout, just put it in the chat or get my attention somehow. But I want it, when we talk about farm safety, we talk about building a culture. And what does that mean, building a culture? What does that look like? And Wayne, I'll talk to you first. What does a culture look like on your farm of farm safety?
Not sure exactly how to word that, but it's got to start from the top. Yeah. Just caring about safety. Yeah, leading by example, but yeah, sometimes it's hard, but you try the best you can, and yeah, implementing all the safety manuals and the procedure manuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's.
Are you able to talk about it more easily over the years? I imagine sharing people's near misses is kind of an embarrassing thing to do sometimes. So how do you make that a culture shift?
Yeah, we're trying to get better and better all the time. We have our safety guy that writes down all our near misses, and then we try to talk about it. We're not the best yet, but we're getting better all the time. So yeah, it takes time to build it, and the faster you can do it, the better. Keep talking about it. Safety, with group chats and just remind them safety first, or just the little things, and keep plugging away. Yep.
Yeah.
Like being a defense on hockey, or you just got to keep doing the right thing, and eventually,
Yeah. What about the rest of the panel? What does that mean, building a culture, and how do you do that? I don't know who wants to jump in first.
I'll go.
Jonathan? Yeah.
I think Wayne sort of hit it on the nose with just the full buy-in. And I see it all too often on farms where they say, okay, come out, do the training, and then they're not active. Either the farm owner or the farm kids aren't part of it. And I've sort of seen the extremes. When I started supervising out west, the first couple months I was in a supervisor role. I was classic Farmer John, got things done. I'd send my employees home, do some of the confined space work after hours because I could do it with about 3 less people. Everybody showed up and the truck was good to go in the morning. And several months in, I realized, wow, if I'm doing that and they know I'm doing that, what are they doing and not telling me about? Which means I have to do this during company hours. I have to show them that we're using the procedures and the merits behind this. And I have to fully buy in if I expect them to be active in it.
That's a good point. Sheila?
So we have to give them, just like Wayne and Jonathan said, it has to start. We have to have buy-in from the employer. And so we have to let the workers know that you don't have to be quiet. If you see something, say something.
Yeah. See something, say something. Yeah.
Let them all know that they're all part of this, and doing circle checks on your equipment every day, and and making sure the equipment is safe to use. Because don't you just hate it, folks, when you've got so much work and you've got this much time to get it all done, and you're way out there, you're in a field and you break down, and that puts you so far behind, or what's worse, someone gets hurt. So doing circle checks, and it's easier than you think, but we just have to train the workers how to do a circle check.
Well, and demonstrate, like just do it. They see the owners do it. Yeah.
And so when I lead a group of children, I often talk to them about a seatbelt. We never had seatbelts when I grew up.
Yeah.
I'm not that old, but I am old enough. And so then seatbelts came in, and you had to wear seatbelts, and you had to put them on every time you were in the car. And then they started with tickets, and now the tickets are outrageous prices if you're not wearing your seatbelt.
Mhm.
So usually the first thing we do when we get in the car, we put on our seatbelt. And so then for a while, I was using the cell phone. When I was in my car, I'd use the cell phone and I would do it. And then more legislation came, but until we had a FedEx driver drive through a stop sign and they were killed because they were using a cell phone, then I quit using cell phones. So no more do I use cell phones when I'm driving. So did it take the impact, or did it take the fact the number of times that I had to go through, no, I shouldn't use the cell phone, or yes, I have to use the seatbelt?
Yeah. Wayne, you had said it starts in the shop.
Yeah, that's
how
absolutely the most, as a custom operation, it starts in the wintertime. Right
How
after
so?
Christmas. You bring, it's maintenance, getting everything ready, making sure everything's good to go. Because, yeah, if you break down in the field, you feel more rushed, and that's usually when accidents happen, is when something breaks down and you're climbing around in the field or on the equipment. And yeah, that's when you pinch your finger or slip off the equipment. It starts in the wintertime. It really does, financially and for the safety aspect.
So like once things are broken down in the field, like that's when people are more likely to get into the accident, because they're
absolutely
already.
There's no data on this, but I just know it in my head that that's the way it is. Because yeah, people get hurt when something breaks down. You just start getting more antsy and rammy, and yeah, you want to fix it, start swinging a hammer, and yeah, pinching the vice grip on somewhere, and it's greasy and slippery, and it one thing leads to the next. Yeah.
So Mel, he's speaking about fixing the machinery in the shop, but nobody's really mentioned about the shop machinery, the machinery that's in the shop that's making parts or welders or things that you're fixing.
Yeah.
So I have attached a list of how people can check some of the machinery in the shop. But if you are a custom operator and you have employees, that means that your shop is governed under the Ministry of Labor. And they can come and inspect your shop and make sure that your angle iron cutters or your bandsaws or your presses, like you have a press to press the bearings out, they all have to be up to snuff. They have to be up to code. The wiring has to be up to code. So if it's not, you need to lock that equipment out, lock it out, tag it out, and then that equipment is not for use for the employees. Now you can come back at night, you can use it yourself, you can work on one of those iron workers, or you can work on one of those presses. But if the employees are going to use it, they need to have the safety features on that press.
And we'll talk a little bit about the fines and the legal issues and all that, but in a bit after we talk about what are the actual dangers and how do we avoid them. Jonathan, you had a comment?
I was just gonna say, when I teach lockout tagout, I usually take it a step farther. So when I'm doing training, it's always nice if I can walk through the shop, and if we find an issue, I like to cut the cord off it right then. Most of the time, we all have half a dozen tools that shouldn't be there anymore. And the first several years I taught lockout tagout, it cost me a lot of money in tools because I do something else. I remember a grinder that I had to hold just right so the housing wasn't cracked, and those sort of things. Throw them out. There's no sense of you even using it. Yeah, and if you get rid of it, then you'll buy another one and you'll be set.
Just cut it. That's awesome.
Just make
Otherwise-
sure the power's off before you cut it, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right. Safety first.
But if you don't destroy it, you'll never get rid of it.
That's a good point. That's a really great point. So let's walk through some of the dangers, and we made this list yesterday when I want to put it on, like chronic pain from not taking care of yourself when you've got bad knees at 40. Is there anything, like, how do you build a culture of just taking care of yourself with the little things? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I would probably like to talk about breathing, dust.
Right.
If you're
Yep.
working in a silo, of course you have silo gas, but you have mold. And so I have a cousin that went up in the silo to shovel the mold off the top of the silo, and he got mold in his lungs at about 50 years old. And instead of going to the hospital, he thought he'd get his wife to bring the oxygen and the acetylene tank into the house and get some extra oxygen in the room for him. So I would think probably should go to the hospital and actually get looked after. And his lungs are damaged forever because he didn't pay attention to the mold that was in the silo. So safety is a big option for him on his farm because he's got children that he needs to look after. He needs to see his grandchildren. He needs to play with them. So he needs to make sure he wears a mask, a dust mask or a breathing mask every time that he's in the barn now.
For everything. Wow. But it normally takes going too far with it.
Yeah.
Anything else? What's the chronic kind of aspect? Wayne?
Can I add on to that? We put in circulation fans in our shop to clean the air, and our lead mechanic made a statement a couple of weeks ago that on the weekend he worked at home in his garage and it was cold, he had everything closed up, and then the evening it was like, what the heck's wrong? I'm like, oh, he stuffing his nose and he was coughing, and he then realized how clean our air is that he works in every day, and I was like, that's awesome. That's what I want to hear. So just four fans circulating the air, and big filters in them, just keeps cleaning the air all the time. So yeah.
Love it. Sheila.
Speaking of chronic, how about vibration? If you are driving tractors for hours and hours and hours and days and days and days, there is a lot of vibration going up your spine.
Yeah.
Did you notice when you get out of the tractor, you feel like you've been beat up and you're absolutely exhausted? It feels like you've had a big workout. That is from vibration. So please seek tractors and equipment that have a really good absorbent like seat, so that you don't have as much vibration.
Yeah. Walter.
When you think of a back pain, we had a backhoe operator that sat in the backhoe every day, and he was at the chiropractor every week, twice a week. He was at the chiropractor. Well, he moved his wallet to his other side, to the other pocket, and he never had to see the chiropractor. And then after 2 weeks, he removed the wallet and never wore it again. So he eliminated any back pain. Yeah, Wayne. Yeah, Wayne keeps his in his front pocket. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I keep mine up in the top. So that is something that people don't think about. Is why am I going to see the chiropractor?
Is ask yourself, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Wayne,
you have too much money in your wallet.
Oh yeah, that's usually the problem. Wayne, Mark wanted to know where you got a hold of a shop air filter system, asking for a friend.
Claire just went to check. I can't remember the name. Yeah, I think they were about 1,000 a piece or something, so $4,000 to $5,000, and we installed it ourselves. So yeah.
We use those in the Husky shop. We have electronic air filters in the Husky shop to keep the welding smoke out of the factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, well worth it. But it's hard to measure, you know. That's always the thing, is how much you're investing. Obviously, Wayne, you're investing a lot into like these little things that you don't know how much they're paying you back. But like
Yeah,
if
but
you
you have to keep.
Well, I can measure it here. So I have 35 employees,
Yeah.
and if they're off because they can't breathe or because there's something wrong with their nose, or I don't have clean air, I have 10% of my workforce is off every day. And if I have more people off because they can't breathe, now I've got a lot of people away.
Yeah. So you do put some dollars and cents to it. Wayne, would you agree?
Oh, totally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you have to spend money on safety and all these things to keep employees from getting chronic whatever. You have to do it. Just like I mentioned, like the government spends on the military 2% of GDP. A business should always be spending on safety and trying to get better every year. Don't you will find something every year that you can improve.
Yeah. It's just part of your operating costs. Just do it.
Yeah.
So was there anything more on the chronic side of it? I guess like hearing is another thing. And Jonathan?
I was just going to say, investing in proper PPE that you don't actually mind wearing. And if you have the good stuff and take care of it, like a set of safety glasses can last months on end if they're not bouncing around the cab of a tractor. A set of ear muffs, if they're comfortable, you'll actually want to wear them. Those sort of things. And if the older generation can talk to the younger ones and say why it's important, I've got permanent hearing damage in this ear. Have for a number of years. I would suspect everybody on this call probably does in some capacity or another, but that's hard to relay to the younger generation. So you've really got to drive that home.
It's like the younger generation would probably feel a little bit invincible unless you try to tell them otherwise. Yeah. What about the next? People are really interested in the filters. You can reply to that directly.
And we can put it online after. Wayne, your brother come back. What's the name of the filter that you have?
Air King filtration from Blind Movement is where we got them.
Okay. So after we'll type that in the chat after so people can get that.
We'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, there's your keyboard. Okay, there you go. Awesome. What about the other one was like falls, twisted ankles. Like we're not just talking about PTO stuff. This can keep people off work for a few weeks. What's your experience in just preventing those, Wayne? Oh, Sheila is more. You win. Go first.
She's on it.
Yeah.
Just getting on and off the tractor, on and off the combine, slip and fall. And it's because of ice and snow, it's because of mud. So we have to say 3-point contact as you're getting on and off. Yeah. I've done it myself. I hopped off a tractor. I shouldn't have hopped off. Sprained ankle. So remind them, take your time, 3-point contact. Over to you, Wayne.
Yeah, totally agree, Eric. We had an employee a couple of years ago, and he was in charge of running one of the planters, and one of the first days he twisted his ankle, and it was just too revved up, and just slow down. Everybody's in a hurry, but if you have a twisted ankle, that really hurts all season. It really does.
Yeah.
So just slow down. Yeah, there's no need. It's so hard it's the culture, I guess, or I'm a Ramy guy myself, so it's, yeah, you gotta just tell yourself to slow down, breathe, and just slow down, yeah.
What do you do? Do you have to count? Do you
Yeah, just, I
Do you
don't
have to
know.
have a
Just-
smoke before you make a decision?
Well,
Like,
I used to smoke, but yeah, I don't anymore. And now I just try to breathe. So yeah, if I'm too pumped up, I just try to breathe and keep breathing.
like,
and,
just count to 10 before you
Yeah.
make a decision
Yep,
or
yep.
something like that.
That's what I've told my guys already. Yeah, something bad happens or something breaks, just count to 10 and then go figure it out. Yeah, it just gives you that extra little time to just relax and yeah, do the right thing.
Yeah.
All that training that you give them comes into effect when they're counting to 10, because there's all those little things there that go through their head. What should they be doing? Yeah, how should we be proceeding with this? And yeah, if you're I have a son that's 16 years old and he can't even walk, right? Always running, just slow down. But that's just the way they are, and you gotta, yeah. He'll be the last to twist his ankle. It'll be me that twists my ankle, but it's just, yeah, slow down.
Slow down, count to 10.
Yeah,
Let the training kick in. Jonathan?
I was just going to tag in, like, I used to be the type of guy that if I was having a bad morning, I would have a bad day. And I spent a lot of time sort of thinking about how to better control that. So now I can be having a bad day and still be in a pretty happy mood, because not being angry about it isn't going to help anything, and trying to take that half a step back. And in almost every scenario, whatever you're dealing with, if that's the worst thing that happens that day, probably still not that bad of a day. So just trying to sort of maintain composure, so things don't escalate more aggressively.
Yep. It's a good point. You just gotta, it is a mental game. Like, safety is a mental game too, right?
Well, I
Wayne,
just comment like sprayers and combines and well, tractors, like a good habit goes a long way. Or if you've got time to turn around and go down the proper way with the 3-point contact, your odds are a lot better than if you're always going down face first.
yeah. Just to try to save 5 seconds, just diving.
There's so many better ways to save time than being in a hurry. Many ways.
That's
And
such a good
winter.
quote.
It starts in the winter. Yeah. Around here anyway. Yeah.
Starts in the winter, preventative maintenance, so you're not having those breakdowns
and
that makes you frustrated. Yeah.
And I think it's important as a farm operation to have time slotted to go over your equipment and take the time to do it. We purposely try to slow down in the winter. There's things that we could take on, but we don't, because we want to make sure we're ready to go April 1st. We want to make sure, because we just, every year you gain more experience, and you know when you're not ready to go that things are going to go sideways, and that's when people start getting hurt or getting pissed off about things, and when the mood isn't right, and it just all starts going sideways.
So you kind of know when things start going off. Like, and if you've been working too many hours that week and like fatigue is starting to set in, would you just send your guys home?
We try to get better and better every year. Try to get bigger, faster, better equipment, better maintenance, that we can go home early. It's hard, but we try to get better every year on this.
Yeah.
It's expensive to have an extra combine or extra tractor. But it's all worth it if you kind of tell yourself you're saving somebody's life, right? So
Yeah. And like just having an extra person on staff, like more than you'd think you would need, just to keep everyone feeling good. But you also you were spread sand.
No, in the wintertime.
In the winter, yeah, but like icy yards.
That's something we started this year, or it's not sand, it's kind of like grits.
Grits,
we had a safety meeting, and that was one of the things that came up, that it's always kind of slippery around here in the wintertime. So we bought a $15,000 spreader and it works great. You just pull it, the battery operated, so we can pull it behind a pickup or a tractor, and yeah, we have about 2 acres a yard, and yeah, within a couple hours it's all spread. So yeah, and perfect. It just made a huge difference. I'm sure Walter, this is just something he does every day, but yeah, it's just the little things. You gotta try to keep getting better and better every year. So yeah.
But that came out of a meeting where your guys were like, it's awfully slippery around here, and you just did something about it.
Yeah, right. The next day. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Or like, I have a little cough. Next day, get those air filters in.
Yeah.
And Mel, there's
Yeah.
rules about that. So you know that after 5 employees, you have to have a member on your health and safety committee. And after 20 employees, you have to have a health and safety group in your factory or in your farm. And you're all getting paid by workman's comp, so you have to follow those rules. So we have a couple of rules in our shop that you can't go up the stairs unless you're using the handrail. And if you're going to carry a box down the stairs, then you have to use the handrail and hold the box in the other hand. So you're not allowed to hold the box with 2 hands and just walk down the stairs. So I never thought it was that important until I went to Esso, the petroleum factory down at Nanacoke, and they actually made me sign a contract. I had a 20-minute safety tour, and I had to sign a contract that said I would use the handrails, I would wear lace-up boots, I would follow the rules just to be on their facility for half an hour. I had to have a 20-minute training session, and Jonathan knows all about that from working out in the old oil fields.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've done that myself on contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Huh.
Yep.
Okay, so now if we work into the little bit more dangerous of the dangers, silo gas and manure gas, how do you communicate about that? Like, what are the dangers? How do you communicate about that? So that is, yeah, Sheila.
Silo gas. Okay, we put the silage in the silo and it immediately starts to ferment. And so it makes silo gas starts to accumulate on the top of the silage. It lasts for 3 to 4 weeks and it will kill you. So if you go up the silo because you need to level it, you can be overcome with the silo gas and you can die. So it's pretty important that you, before you're going to go up there, put a big fan to try and blow. You'll open the silo door, one of the doors, put a fan to try and blow that silo gas, because silo gas is heavy, it will go down. Just a quick note about manure gas. Manure gas on liquid manure storage, it's quite deadly too, and it will kill you like within a minute. So if you are in an enclosed area where there might be manure gas, yeah, it can kill you like within a minute. It's like almost like being hit across the head with a 4x4. So and you can't see it and it smells like manure. So if you have to go down where the manure pump is, that's where manure gas lives. Or if you have to go into the liquid manure spreader for some reason because it's plugged up or something, yeah, it'll kill you very quickly.
But how do you communicate that to your employees? Like, I don't know, Wayne said you always just knew about silo gas, and how did you learn about that?
My dad taught me. I don't know. Yeah. He taught me to go up past the door and kick it in if it's in the first 3-4 weeks, and then the gas can go down. But yeah, so I wanna, this fall we were chopping at a farmer, and after we were done filling the silo, I know lots of you guys don't do silos, but we do hundreds of them, and after we were done, he put on his fan with an electric motor on it and a cord to a receptacle. He attached it to the bottom and he built it himself. And I told him we need to get that out there in the papers and so people can buy this. It's maybe a couple $100. It's just pretty.
Just a little squirrel fan, really.
Yeah.
And we take the blower with us when it leaves, so.
Yeah, so if somebody wants to know more about it, just ask me, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. And Jonathan,
But
you said you, oh, go ahead.
You could use that for 3 or 4 weeks after, or these guys don't have blowers when we leave, so they gotta go up there 2 weeks later to set up the silent loader, set it down, move the chutes. So yeah, there's always danger, and I thought this would be a heck of a good idea to get it on the farms, that the guys could have fast and they just flip a switch when they go, or half an hour before they go up for an hour, and just make sure the air is moved out. So yeah.
Just an easy way to do it.
We're not moving up there as well.
Jonathan, you said you'd had some training with manure gas. What did that? There's a common perception that you can just hold your breath a lot longer than you think you can.
The training I had at the farm was a little bit less intense than Wayne's. I was told at the dairy farm I worked at, as he handed me a bunch of baler twine to tie the doors on the way up because they were all in pretty rough shape, was climb faster if I start to get lightheaded. So that was the training on that dairy farm. And then this weird perception I had all the way through into my early 20s and even into the oil fields, every time I saw sort of a newspaper article where farmers had died in manure tanks or inside a barn, was always like, oh, they didn't hold their breath well enough, or somewhere deep inside it was, oh, I'm tougher than that. And it took until I did a confined space rescue course out west where they put an SCBA on my back, blindfolded me, and then gave me a 150-pound dummy and made me try to do a rescue throughout this tank. And that's when I fully understood I'm not that special. There's nothing I can do while I've got my breath held to attempt to rescue anybody in that capacity. And that's when I sort of fully understood. And then the only other thing I was going to add is one thing we're looking at doing probably tomorrow. Some of these gas detectors are rather expensive. I'm just going to buy a set. If a farmer needs it, I'll purulate it out, have it pre-labeled so you can just tell me when you're done with it. Because I've had too many farmers quote it, they get a price back and they say, we're not interested, so we're just going to have one here.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Nice, but it.
Sheila's clapping. Wayne,
Yeah. We put some gas detectors in our shop, and it's not the equipment that you think it is, or that you think might be the problem that actually is the problem. So yeah, it's pretty awesome to watch the numbers go up and the fan starts and they start dropping again. So yeah.
So we do sell a gas detector, the VW gas detector, and we have them here in stock. If you wear them on your rubber boot where they're down low, that's where the dangerous gas is coming around. And that is helpful. It tells you when the gas is getting to 15 parts per million, tells you when it's getting to 25 parts per million, and after that, you better be out of the barn. So if that alarm goes off at 25 parts per million, you have to send an employee home for an 8-hour day. So they have to have 8 hours of fresh air. And so if you have 5 employees in a shop and the level of hydrogen sulfide in that shop goes up to 25, all those employees have to go home for an 8-hour day. So the gas detector is very helpful. So if you're mixing a manure pit and you're outside and the wind is blowing toward you, so we were doing that last fall, and I was on the high side and my son was on the low side, and my son come home with a headache and I didn't. He got more than 100 parts per million of hydrogen sulfide when they were mixing the pit, and that's just in the air. Wow. At 1,000 parts per million, the death is instant. It's not a minute like Sheila says, it's instant. You breathe in and you never breathe out. So that's how fast hydrogen sulfide works. We found that any manure pit that has gypsum or drywall in as bedding is worse. So the gypsum is creating a dangerous gas in the manure pit, and it's actually building up more. So it is very serious. Usually in the case of Flinkert farms where they crawled in the manure spreader to help the first person that went in.
Yeah.
So the first person is usually the accident victim, and the next 2 or 3 people are usually the rescue people. And so, they die a hero, not as an accident victim because they were there. I was at one of the farm shows in Drayton, and the gentleman that was the 4th gentleman to crawl in the manure spreader, he came to me at the farm show and said, "Hey, I was number 4 that crawled in the tank." And he held his nose and he went down and he tried to pick up that 150-pound man, and he couldn't do it. And he ran to the top. So he was successful because he could hold his breath longer, but that's not the answer. The answer is not to go in. Even if it's your child, even if it's your wife or your spouse or your significant other, do not go in a manure tank or a manure spreader to rescue them, because you will die. If they died, you will die.
Just hard to hear still after all these years, Want to move to the next subject, which is things that move really fast. PTOs, augers. Fire away. How do you prevent those from happening, and how do you communicate about it? Shields, guards, no loose clothing.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know whether you said my name or not, but at Husky, we have a policy that no manure spreader can go out of here without a shield on it. And if the farmer says he doesn't want a shield because he can't afford to pay for it, or he just takes them off when he gets home, then he has to sign a contract for us that he took that PTO home without a shield, because we're responsible for his farm if that doesn't have a shield. We had a farmer in New York that the employee got caught up in a PTO and he was killed. And the second person on the farm was a lawyer. So down in New York, they have lawyers that have monitors in their office to find out who has the police calls and who they should go see. The next day, that farmer called us and ordered 8 PTO guards for all his equipment. Turns out that he takes all the PTO guards off when he gets it because the employees are only going to wreck them anyway. Yeah. So he took all the guards off. So that farmer was completely responsible for the death of that employee. So make sure that all your equipment has your guards on. Make sure that they're smooth, they're greased, and they're oiled. Make sure that they're checked every day. And don't walk over the PTOs.
And never walk over. Nope. Even if you've done it successfully before.
Even if you've done it 100 times, just don't.
That's right.
Don't do it 101 times.
No.
That's right.
Well, and is that where you'd say if you saw a coworker doing that, you give them hell? Is that part of the culture, or how do you have that conversation nicely?
See something, say something. Yeah, just say
yes.
something. Yeah.
So we have a pink ticket draw at Husky Farm Equipment, and what happens is if we don't have a lost time accident, then you get to take home $15 or $25 at the end of the month, every month. But on that sheet, you write somebody down for a pink ticket. So if they stepped over a PTO, you write them on a list. And then at the end of the month, you can talk about it. If they are using their cell phone while they're driving, then you can talk about it. You write it down on a list, and then at the end of the month, when you're all in the office, then you talk about it.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about it. Let's talk about it before the end of the month.
Well, yeah.
Mm,
If it's serious, if it's a serious infraction, we actually talk about it. We'll bring all the employees together and talk about it right then.
right then and there. Okay.
Safety can be talked about every day. Yeah, you don't have to pick a day, but yeah, you also have to have rules that are in place, but yeah, safety can be talked about every day. For sure, with younger people around, you need to talk about it all the time, so, yeah.
And that really helps to build the safety culture so that everybody starts to get on board and everybody takes responsibility. It's not just the boss yelling at us. We have to help them understand why it's important for everybody. And I have to give kudos to Walter, who was telling us about how he trains the kids. Tell them about that, Walter.
Yeah, when we talk to a group of children, we can have 25 or 80 children in a group. I often tell the children that they have to tattle on their mom or dad. And the kids just think it's great because they can run home and they find that dad is got one of the silo unloaders has a no guard on the pulley, and then they can go catch dad and say, hey, that hasn't got a guard on it. Safety Sam told us that you have to have a guard. And then the parents, then they have to take a serious look at, why do I not have a guard on that pulley? Because if my children notice it, and if my children are telling me that I don't have a guard on it, that means they're conscious about safety on the farm.
Mm. Yeah, that's important. Wayne,
Yeah,
you had your mouth open.
yeah, I had wondered if we should, I've wondered if even around here, you shouldn't have a third-party person walk around every month pointing out stuff, because you get complacent in your own place, right? We had this insurance guy here that he was checking the hydro with his monitor and everything and walking around and just yeah. Well, where's that fire extinguisher? Oh, yeah, we were gonna do that. Yeah, totally forgot about that. Walked out to the elevator and pointed out a shield that was off, and yeah, it's been off for a long time. Everybody forgot about it, or like it's just, yeah, you get complacent. You don't actually see the things because, yeah, it's like that all the time. Yeah. So it's, yeah, you need to always be aware, I guess. Yeah.
Good point. Jonathan.
I was just gonna say, if it's written down and noted, you know how many issues you have to deal with, and you can start to put a plan in place. Like if you don't have a PTO cover on anything, yes, they should all be done today, but maybe a few can wait a couple months if they're not being used. Let's sort of spread this out as it's appropriate and start working towards that safer environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thumbs up from Sheila. What about other moving equipment? Like what's this like standard procedures? How do you avoid getting run over? Wayne?
I don't know. In the shop during the winter, it starts in the winter again, is when you move something out of the shop, maybe have 2 or 3 people guiding it out, watching every corner, making sure there's nobody in the way. Yeah, the culture starts, yeah, when you have time to do it the right way, and yeah, reflective, or we're getting reflective vests for all the employees that they have to wear going forward. So yeah, when it gets dark at night and stuff, they stick out.
Got to stick out. Yep. Jonathan.
I was just going to give an oil field example. One of the sites I worked on was incredibly frustrating, where if you had to back up more than 3 meters, they expected you to get out every 3 meters and back, get out, check the blind spots, get back in the truck, move 3 meters. And it took me like 5 days of being very upset about that before I was like, wow, if they want to pay me 10 hours to back up, I will do that all day. But That's one of the things I brought home, like as far as checking blind spots. So even now, if I'm at my farm or if I'm at the mall, I will check all the corners of the vehicle. What am I not seeing? What's in the way? Is there a kid? Is there anything behind the tires? And it's saved me a lot of times.
Sheila?
Tractors running over people is one of the more common types of fatalities that we see across Canada. Running over, backing over.
Backing over.
It's part of the circle check. Just walking around and making sure everything's good to go, kick the tires. Yeah. It's just culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting the reflective vests, great idea, Wayne.
What about distracted driving? We're texting a lot these days. How do you manage that with your workforce, Wayne?
Two-way radios, and we have tracking systems. I'm mostly on dispatch, so I try not to never send a text when I know somebody's on the road, or like don't do that, and or just call. Yeah, everybody should have Bluetooth, and all our vehicles have Bluetooth, so they should be able to take a call safely. Yeah. Two-way radios we had a crappy batch, and we now have a better system. So it means a lot when they work properly. That way the whole crew can hear everything that's been said, and it's not just 1-to-1, it's 1-to-15 or
Everyone.
1-to-5 or 1-to-10, right? Yeah.
Sheila, did you have?
Yeah, and I think like the younger generation, they're all texting. It's hard to tell them to not text. But we have to, those are ground rules here, folks. No texting.
And anything else in terms of just dangers before we move into the legal and financial issues with dealing with an accident?
I think distracted driving is a lot more of a problem than people let on, right? People sometimes they won't admit that they were on texting, or they won't admit, but if a police officer finds that you're on the phone texting while driving a tractor, he can give you a ticket. And then he can, after the third time, he can take your license away, and he can impound your combine for 30 days. And you're going to pay the towing bill, and you're going to pay to get that combine out of impoundment. So it is real. It is a problem, and they're trying to get on top of it.
Wow. Adrian, you had a question about dealing with cell phones around the shop. What was that? Unmute yourself. Speak.
I guess my question is, and it is a problem in my shop, you walk in the shop and you see two guys doing something or standing there looking at their phone, right? So do you just completely enforce it that there's no cell phones around the shop, only on break?
Oh.
Or how do other people deal with the problem is my question.
That is starting the culture.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Or when you
So,
got apps and you name it all, it's hard. Yeah.
So we
Walter?
made a rule. And we eliminated phones, and some people were complaining, and they couldn't get a message from their wife or their spouse. So I said, okay, fine. Let's carte blanche. Everybody can use the phones. They can use their cell phones. They can do whatever they want. We had one employee never worked for 9 hours, and he spent all day on the phone. All day on the phone. He never once stopped using his phone. And so then we had to go back and say, okay, well, that's it. If you have to take a phone call from someone at home, if it's an emergency, take the phone call. It's a tool, right? So for some people, it's a tool. They got a doctor's appointment and the doctor has to call your cell phone. So a lot of them will come in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to get a cell phone call sometime today. Okay, fine. We know that. But to sit and text all the people and try and plan your Christmas party on texting at work, it's not responsible. But if we've allowed them to, we're not going to go and yell at them if they're using their cell phone at work. But hey, let's get back to work. Let's get something done. And so we are bringing it to their attention. We are constantly reminding them. And at probably every third safety meeting, we bring it up. Hey, don't use your cell phones at work unless it's an emergency. And we are watching what you're doing. So we make sure that they know.
How often do you have safety meetings, Walter?
Once a month, every month. And then we have a test, a WMIS test once a year. We have fire training twice a year. We have safety training every 2 months. So we have confined space training inside a spreader every 2 months. And then we have a fire drill where we all run outside because we think the factory exploded. We do that once a year. And then we have an actual fire training where we light a pail of garbage on fire and then they have to blow it out. We have fire extinguisher training where, so, well,
Like a
hopefully they
birthday.
put it out.
It's like a birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on my 60th birthday party, they blew out all the candles with a fire extinguisher. And
Safety first.
then we do one more. We have man down, and we have forklift training. So we have renew on our forklift training every year. And we have a book that has everybody's licenses in it, and then they're all checked, they're all renewed, and you can't drive the forklift. If your forklift license expires and you weren't renewed in time, you can't drive the forklift.
Wow.
So and we have that with every machine. So we have that with every machine in the shop. If you haven't been trained on a drill press, if you haven't been trained on the saw, if you haven't been trained on an iron worker, you cannot use it. And if you haven't been trained on electricity, you cannot use it.
Wow. Sheila, you had a comment there?
Yeah, going back to the distracted driving and or just cell phones.
Yeah.
What happens in industry and construction, as Jonathan will probably chime in on this one, but it's standard. Your cell phone is in your lunchbox, and you can use it on your 15-minute lunch. 15-minute break or your half-hour lunch, and that's it.
Wow. Or you need to put it in the glove compartment if you're driving. Like there's some standards like that. Back to training, just because you were talking about it, Walter. Like, people, like, less accidents happen once you're comfortable and confident with the equipment. How long does it take to get that? Like, is it training all it takes? Or like Wayne, you must do a lot of training on some of your equipment. Like, how do you know when someone is confident enough to not mess it up?
It's never ever the same from one person to the next. Or even myself, I jump on the corn planter in the spring, and it takes a couple rounds, or it's just till you get relaxed, and then you start seeing or noticing things that are going on, right? Or it's just you got to be confident in what you do. And confidence comes with training and just
Time and training.
Yeah.
Do you make it as like Walter? I imagine you're getting sign-offs that someone has taken the training. Wayne, do you go through that same amount of paperwork? Is that is that all in that binder?
This is kind of the binder we have here.
Okay.
And people need to sign off. They need to go through the health and safety policy and the procedure manual. And Jonathan helps us with all this stuff. So it's helped quite a bit. I know it has. So it's
So I'd like to say one thing about that safety manual. I'm sure that you put some of it together yourself, and you've helped organize the binder, and you've helped to do the work. So we had one of our customers that knew that he should have some health and safety training, so he purchased a package from the United States. It was $100 for each employee, and they get a book, and he gets a binder, and he paid $200 for the binder. So he bought all of the equipment. He bought all of that literature, and he put it on the shelf in his office. He never talked to any employees. He never shared it with any of the employees. He never showed them the books. So when the Ministry of Labor came after he had an incident, they said, "Where is your health and safety training?" It's right here on the shelf. I have all the books. They're right here. And so the Ministry of Labor went out and he asked the employees in the shop, "Where's your health and safety manual?" "I have no idea. We don't have training." "Who told you to do this?" "No, we have no training. We have nothing." And they found out then that he got the equipment, he got the books, but he didn't use it because he didn't know it. He just wanted to have the books in the shelf in case the Ministry of Labor came.
Right. So I guess there's both aspects, is like, if you do all the best training, but you never write it down, or you have everything written down, but you never actually did it. Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that?
I was just gonna say, like, getting a system in place to begin with, and then it's gonna be a constant battle, and it's basically getting it started. So even we do health and safety policy books. We had to go back and sort of refine, and it always seems to be a trouble employee in any company, which is the reason you have to refine these policies by getting started somewhere and then sort of building from there. One thing we did to try to streamline that is now we have our clients' health and safety manuals online, so we can assign the specific manual for Highlands that says where the muster points, who they should be calling, those things, just trying to make it easy so it's accessible for each employee.
How's that been going, Wayne?
Good. Yeah. It's a constant battle on this end of the business. It's a constant battle to try to implement, train, and do all these things, because there's a million other things to do. And but you learn that financially you're better off doing it the safe way and just doing it the right way. You're financially better off. Even I know for a fact. I don't have data on it, but I know for a fact that you're financially better off.
Yeah. And like legally, I guess let's talk a little bit about the Ministry of Labor and like what can they ding you for? And if you have a binder, does that actually save your butt? Or let's just talk dollars and cents right now. What can they ding you for, Sheila?
I noticed Adrian had his hand up.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Look at me, just Adrian, go ahead.
So I have a question. If I wanted, so this whole health and safety binder is kind of, I don't have time for it, and maybe out of my expertise too. So if, let's say, Jonathan were to put a binder together for my company, what ballpark of cost would that cost my company? How much per employee or in total, or how do you go about that?
So it would vary on how aggressive you want to go, but we do our base binder for $600, and then we charge $90 an hour to customize it. But for most general workplaces, to sort of put together a simple one, to firm $1,400-$1,500.
Does that involve
Go ahead.
Sorry, you glitched or I glitched. Does that involve some part of training, or is that just making a binder?
That's just getting sort of your base policies in place, just showing where you're going to muster, just going over the base procedures that you should have. Through that, we can also do your health and safety board. And this is where we've sort of found this is a service that's needed, because for the first couple of years, somebody would ask me about a health and safety board, and I would say, here are all the links, just go there, click there, this is what you have to do. And every time I did that, I'd check back 6 months or a year later and nothing was done. So next I'd say, okay, we're going to do it all. I can do a health and safety board in a couple hours. I'm not like all the posters are free. We just customize everything else, send it to you. Almost every time we do that, I go to the farm a year later and it'd be sitting on a cabinet somewhere. So now I just, okay, we'll set it up. I'll send out somebody for a health and safety audit. I'll send you a whiteboard, whatever we need to do. I'll screw it to the wall so it's done. And then that's sort of a basis that we can work from, and we sort of go from there.
You need a more
So-
aggressive approach.
Just to get
Right.
you guys over the hump, and then you have something to build from, because it shouldn't be, it doesn't need to be scary. It is a lot to take on, but if all you guys do this year is look at some health and safety training and do a health and safety board, you're still going to be ahead of the vast majority of farmers.
Yeah.
I think taking ownership of your safety plan, if you buy it from Jonathan or you decide to make it yourself, you still have to have ownership of your plan.
It's got to involve everyone in that conversation. Then you write it down, and it's where it feels like their own. Yeah. Does the size of the operation matter? I might be bringing this back to the Ministry of Labor. So once you have more than 5 employees, you're on the hook for, what was that, Walter? What, it's
So
different
5
thresholds
employees,
of
you need one
size.
person, right? Yes. So you have to have one safety person if you have 5 employees. If you have 20 employees, you have to have a safety committee.
Whole committee.
And they have to meet, and you have to have one management, you have to have one representative for the employees. And Jonathan can help get all that information to you to make sure you're following the rules. You saw that handout that I sent to you. Like, that's for somebody that's going to have 1 employee or 2 employees. That's just a simple thing just to get going. So I have Husky farm equipment, which pays workman's compensation, but I also have my own farm at home, and I hire children after school to help me on the farm. So they have to have workman's comp. They have to have training. They have to have safety training. So I'm safety training in the day. I'm safety training at night. So I'm doing it both ends of the stick.
Yeah.
So if you have any employees on the farm, any employees, so the only employee that's excused is if you have a housekeeper for 4 hours a week. If any other employees, you have to pay workman's comp. You have to have workman's compensation. And that's on every farm, and that's with every business. There's no exemptions. If you have 1 kid come to milk every day, you have to have workman's compensation.
Is it different? Well, no, it's such a gray area, but I guess that's what OPACA is here to understand, is the gray area between what's farm and what's contractor. Because they're different.
So anything
laws
you
there.
do for money, anything you do for profit is a custom operation business. So if you have a farm and then you go down the road and you haul manure for your neighbor and you exchange it for silage, like that might be the barter system.
Okay.
So that's a little bit untraceable. If you have your dad come to work for you and you supply a pickup truck, but the minute that you sign a check for your dad, he's under your business. And so if you have partners, so here I own Husky Farm Equipment and my son is a partner or owns shares. So we do not pay workman's compensation. So I do not pay into WSIB for myself. I do not pay EI. So if you own the company, you do not have to pay EI and you do not have to pay workman's comp. But everybody else does. And so if you have an accident and you're not paying workman's comp, I don't think that you could afford the risk.
Hmm.
We have our own, we have 3 partners here and we have our own insurance. They're not through workman's comp, but we definitely cover ourselves. We have to. We can't fly blind, so yeah. Never.
Good point. And like if you had an incident and what if you only had 3 employees, so you didn't need to have this, do you still need to have these manuals? And do you need to have it written down, Jonathan?
Yeah, like
Doesn't
that
matter
first
how.
employee, you need to have stuff in place. And
Okay.
that's probably the most common misconception where people say, well, I don't have 5 employees. It doesn't count, but you still have to have everything in place. I can definitely understand the hesitancy. If you only have 1 employee, it sucks a little bit more, but it can be a simpler program than if you have a lot more. And the biggest thing is there's still resources like and WSPS has phenomenal resources too, but our general annual training, so women's violence harassment and general safety, that's $90 a person online. It's not hugely expensive. We try to make like our on-site auditing, we've actually made cheaper than our policy writing, just to try to promote getting people out onto the farm and make it a little bit more accessible.
Okay.
One thing we didn't cover, Mel, is payroll.
Yeah.
And everybody pays employees to work, but when you're working overtime, so we had a client in Michigan, which the same rules apply up here, and he worked for a whole year and never paid overtime to any of his employees. And then he was audited by payroll, and they found out that he was a business, so he was a commercial entity, and he had to pay overtime after 44 hours. Well, all of his employees were working nights and days and full long hours because they were trying to haul manure all the time. So he had to declare bankruptcy immediately because he couldn't pay the government for the amount of, he owed $100,000 in back payroll because of overtime.
I just got sick there for a second. While we're talking about sickening things, do you want to share those numbers, Sheila?
Okay.
Just
here
to
I go.
scare the crap out of everyone. Hold on to your pants.
Yeah,
Okay.
here I go with sickening. Okay, a worker can receive a fine from the Ministry of Labor. They'll hand out tickets. A ticket to a worker that is failing to use the equipment, machine, tool, or equipment according to the operator's manual is $250. If you're not wearing your steel-toed boots, $250. For owners or supervisors who aren't complying with the safety regulations, like if a worker gets hurt or killed, they will come after the owner and the supervisor for $100,000 or put to imprisonment of 12 months or both. Okay, raise your hand, folks, if you are incorporated. Give me a little wave. Are you incorporated, anyone? You're gonna love this one. If a corporation is convicted of health and safety offense, it's $1,500,000 per offense. So if they see that you've done 1, 2, 3 things wrong, or you didn't have all your safety ducks in a row, and they notice $1.5 million per offense.
So if you have insurance, the insurance will cover to fight it in court. The insurance will cover to do, but they will not pay the fine. So the insurance company won't pay the fine, but they'll pay to fight your case in court, or they'll pay to help correct the situation, but they won't pay the fine.
And it's only an offense if it's an incident?
Yeah, generally that's when they come after you. If there has been a critical injury or a fatality, that's when you get in this deep doo-doo.
Deep doo-doo.
They do service calls. They come out and stop here and do a tour anytime they want.
Yeah. But I don't even know what to say. Don't want to leave this on a depressing note. So we're
Yeah.
gonna move on.
If you don't have, if you don't have any of this stuff that we've been talking about, if you don't have any safety manuals, like Jonathan was speaking, if you don't have anything in place and you say, well, I told them not to do that. No, you need it. You need it in
Hey,
right.
hey, Sheila, if they don't have the safety board, how much does it cost if they don't have that safety board?
I don't know how
It's
much.
200, right?
Is it? I would think.
Yeah, it's $200. Yeah, if you don't have that 1, 2, 3, 4 sticker up on the wall, it's $200. Yep.
I put it up,
Well,
Mark.
And one thing I was just going to say is I find it changes the whole tone of the meeting with the MOL if you have this stuff in place. If they walk in and you can say, that's the safety board, this is my policy book, it's
Yeah.
a much happier endeavor. It's much more amicable, and it changes the tone to show that you've done some due diligence and are working towards it.
Good point.
So I have been doing this for 30 years. I've been inspected 10 times. I have never been charged a fine because my due diligence is huge.
Yeah. Wayne?
Yeah, Walter probably knows more than the guy that shows up some days.
No, I bet.
It's like getting stopped on the road by the MTO and you go, that's not how it is. This is how it is. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's true. It would serve us
yeah.
well to know. Yeah. Yeah.
Walter does a great job. I've
Yeah.
talked to him before and listened to him. And yeah.
Yeah.
Good on you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, I'm grateful to all four of you on the panel for for letting us know. It's difficult to talk about, but I'd rather know than not, especially because maybe this will save a life, this will save a business, just having these important conversations. So to kind of end on a positive note, we've walked through what are the dangers, why you need to have these manuals, but what is something that all of us on the call could do tomorrow that would make our workplaces safer? And also, like, I'll be following up with all these resources. If you want to, Sheila or Jonathan want to pop them in the chat, if you want to give it to people right now. Otherwise, I can send it out by email. But like, what training courses are available? What sort of resources are available? But anyways, I'll put it to Wayne first. What's something that all of us could do tomorrow?
Well, I did it yesterday already. Talked to the guys that we're gonna do the tractor courses. I didn't realize that Elite Agri's website had a whole bunch of courses on, and I went through it and I was like, wow, there's so much stuff we can do. Almost got excited about safety. That's kind of weird, isn't it? But there's so much stuff on there. Just everybody go on his website, take a look, and just pick maybe 6 of them and just do them. Yeah.
So they're there.
They're there.
The good news is that a lot of this work is already being done. Sheila has been doing training for years. Just because we're not aware of it doesn't mean that it's not. There's so many resources for us. Sheila, what would be their first thing that they could do tomorrow to?
I've got some easy ones. I'm just going to put in the chat box. How about I've got a 7-minute YouTube video on driving the farm equipment on rural roads, because you need to know the Highway Traffic Act. That's a real quick and easy. Let's start with that.
Good point. Jonathan? Oh, you just said it, put in the chat.
Yeah. So
your last words for the evening.
Just be aware there's online training to sort of make your lives easier. If you are overwhelmed with paperwork, which I think most of us are, there's people you can hire to sort of get this stuff done and rolling in the right direction. And for a quick, simple thing to sort of work on, it's just even walking around and doing an assessment of your equipment of your shop tomorrow. I'm sure there's 30 things in most of our shops and most of our farms and barns that we could fix that would be easy, that would be correctable. So just taking that small step in the right direction.
Start. Yeah.
Start.
Walter?
Just start.
Just
So I
start.
think my job for farm safety is to make farmers aware that there can be problems or there's things that they need to get. So, we steer them toward WSPS and we steer them toward Jonathan and we tell them where to go. So we go to the farm show in Drayton and then we tell them that, hey, we're going to give you a free slow moving vehicle sign. If you bring us a damaged slow moving vehicle sign, I'll give you a free one, a brand new one, free of charge. And we supply that and we pay for that. We have safety courses that we pay. We give you pizza, we give you free pizza, and we have people out to safety courses, and we bring in speakers, and that's our job as far as farm safety. But I did write a little bit of a safety sheet, which I think you're going to post on the website.
Yeah.
I know that Sheila and Jonathan are putting stuff in the chat, but generally somebody can't grab that right out of the chat and go get it because it's not, if they're on a tablet, if they're watching on their cell phone, they can't grab that later on. So Mel is going to put all that stuff up on the website. She's going to have access to it. And you can meet with your employees the next day that they're at work. And you can say, hey, we're going to start a safety program. We're going to work together at it. And we're going to go slow. And first of all, we want to go over what machines you can use and what you can't. And then just start writing it down and write everything down. It's a lot easier than it looks. And it's not as daunting because you're only doing it a little bit at a time.
Yeah. Excellent points. And you guys have been pretty, besides Adrian, pretty quiet. Were there any questions or just comments to throw it out to the rest of you guys? Any comments to wind it up? Or key takeaways?
And remember, you're muted, so you have to unmute your microphone.
Yeah. No, just to wrap it up, any last thoughts or questions or anything? If not,
we had a long time and put the disc mower in this winter, and he said, "Are we gonna fix that PDO shield again? We do it every year." And I was like, "Yeah, it's $30, same parts. Go get them." He's like, "Why do we fix it every year?" And it's like, "Well, who decide? Like, it's a shaft that's hidden away. You'll never get caught in it. It's impossible, just because of where it's hidden." Like, why do we keep fixing that shaft? Well, who's going to decide which shafts are dangerous and which aren't? Like, I'm not going to make that call. So just fix all the shields, and then it's a simple answer.
You don't have to think about it.
Yeah, nobody's there deciding which one is deemed safe and which one isn't. If it's a shield, you fix it.
Yeah. Excellent point.
Mark, where do you buy a PTO shield for $30? Because usually like
yeah. I was just gonna say, the Amish are great people to buy PDO shields from. There's a guy by Conestoga Lake. It's a fraction of. Don't go to a dealer. Sorry, Walter. Don't go to a dealer for PDO parts. Like, and I'm talking like not the entire shield. Like this was like the plastic bearing and the slide tube damage. Like the cones were good still. So like if that would be at your dealership, they would throw the whole thing in the garbage and bill you $200 for a whole new shield. But yeah, if you know where to go, you get $20-$30 for the parts and you got the thing fixed up again.
So
I can send you his number.
You can just buy them online.
Yeah, you should send me that number, Mark. I had a special PTO on my Crone Wars, and if I want to replace the whole thing, it was like $1,000 for just the shield.
Yeah.
Like just plastic.
Yeah, and for sure you get into those situations, but a little bit of research and maybe you can find a cheap solution.
Excellent. Anything else? Anyone's comments or? if not, I just want to send a huge thank you to Wayne, Jonathan, Sheila, and Walter for having this important conversation, and yeah, and for promoting farm safety, because it's really important, and I do believe that it's saving lives. It's definitely, when you hear about these accidents or fatalities, like, it really hits us really hard. But I think that we handled the conversation in a really positive way. We can be proactive. We can start changing the culture, and yeah, save some lives, or even some chronic pain. So that's also good. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'll unspotlight you. And I kind of want to hand it back to Mark, like, if there's any more OPACA business that anyone wanted to talk about before we call it a night.